Welcome into today's webinar, everybody. We're going to wait just a few moments as people jump in, and then we'll get started. I'll get my slideshow all ready. I'm starting too deep into my slideshow, so you're getting a preview if you jumped in
Close
early.
your eyes. Don't
Yeah.
peek. Don't peek.
Once you jump in here, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. I am tuning in from Portland, Oregon. We got some clouds today, but it's pretty warm, which is nice. So up in the northwest, and then Stacy, you're even further north from me. Where are you tuning in from?
Yeah, so I'm northeast. So I am upstate New York, the Lake George, Saratoga Springs area. So we had that big heat wave that everybody else did, except for that I was telling Preston, like, it's already broken, it's already rainy, it's back to like 75. So that was short-lived. But
Nice.
yeah, I see some friends coming from Texas and
Nice.
Oregon,
Oh, sweet,
Iowa.
another
Oh,
Oregonian.
yeah, well, I see a Rochester, New York.
Ah.
Awesome.
We're getting representation
Nice.
in our
I
state.
love it. So great.
That's fantastic. Charlotte, North Carolina, very fun.
Nice. Thanks
Junction
for
City,
sharing.
Oregon. I don't think I actually know where that is. I'm gonna have to look that up after this. Shanna, tell me where that's at. Is it on the coast or is that more central? Sounds cool though, wherever it is.
I love it. One of our teammates is from a town called Sandwich. We said, prove
Sandwich.
it. You got prove it.
That's awesome. 2 hours more
hmm
than. Oh, Eugene area. Okay, cool. Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, welcome in. That probably makes you an Oregon Ducks fan. Probably. So, cool. Well, let's jump in today. Breeze texting. We're going to be talking about connecting with your church. So, we're going to talk about all things communication with Breeze, but specifically talking about texting. So, we're going to dive into all of that. Here at Tithely, we love to have a little bit of fun. We love to connect with people. So, you've already told us where you're tuning in from, but it's summer season. People are going to VBS, Vacation Bible School. So I wanted to know, what is your church's VBS theme this year? Or if your church isn't doing it, what's like your favorite VBS theme you ever did or one you would do? So if it's doing it, if it's doing VBS, let us know. Stacy, is your church doing
I
VBS?
love it. We are. We call it summer camp and we do
Oh,
it at the
fun.
end. Yeah, we do it at the end of the summer. It's a full day.
Oh,
But
nice.
we love Grow Curriculum. That's for
Mm.
any of you who don't
Oh,
know,
cool.
that's free. That's a free VBS. So we're doing the Step Right Up circus theme. It will be
Nice.
super sweet. I used to be in children's ministry, so I know that we are entering. I know it feels like summer slows down for a lot of people not in children's ministry. If
No.
you guys are serving in that area, you're ramping up right now. I'm here
Yeah.
for you.
That's awesome. Looks like people are doing Magnified or True North. That's
Very cool.
cool. Our church is doing a Wild West one. I forget actually what the I forget what the theme's called. I just remember all the whole church is Western right now. That's all I see,
Love
and it's very
it.
fun. So
Cowboy hats for days.
yeah, exactly. We're out in the country as well a little bit. I'm just outside of Portland, so it's very fitting for my area.
I love it. I love it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, moving on here, just a little bit about our department here. So we are the customer experience team. So that means that we exist to be by your side and for your growth. We're customer centric, innovative, transparent, solution motivated, and partnered and invested in your church. So as you just found out, Stacy and I, we both serve at our own churches. A lot of our team, in addition to being full time here at Tithely, are invested in their local church. So it's really cool that we get to serve you wherever you're at, which is all over the map from what you've put in the chat, which is amazing. So that's what we're all about, and we are specifically on the customer experience team. And then a little introductions. My name is Preston. I'm on the education side of the customer experience team. Stacy, where are you at on the team?
Yeah, so I am on the support side of things. So I may have interacted with some of you over on that support side. I support Breeze, I support sites and church apps. So yeah,
Yeah.
reach out if we can help.
Yeah, we got the expert Stacy. She'll also be answering questions as well, which we'll go over in just a second. But if you've not seen our entire product suite, we have a ton of tools across the Tithely Breeze family. So this is just kind of covering some of we're talking specifically about Breeze today. But if you didn't know, a part of Tithely, we've got a whole bunch of other features. So if you need a website or some other cool features, we can help you out with that. Cool. Well, getting to Stacy's role again, we've got the Q&A. So we've got a chatbot, which you've all been already messaging in, and then there's also that Q&A button. So when you click that, you can put in any questions that you have, and we will answer those either in the chat or at live at the very end of the webinar. So as we're going through items, if something comes up, just throw that in the Q&A and we will answer it. If you put it in the chat, it might get lost. But please keep the chat going. You can just throw in a heck yeah, or things are going great, because that we love
We love
encouragement.
it. We
So
love the feedback. We love the feedback.
yeah. Awesome. Well, that's all the front load. Let's talk about why you're all here, which is texting with Breeze. So I'm going to do a lot of demo work today. We're actually going to get in the product so we can see what it looks like, and we'll talk about best practices and how you can really utilize this feature. So we'll go up broad strokes first, communicating in Breeze. So within Breeze, you have the option of sending emails, which we'll start going over. And then you have texting. And then you also have auto reminders, which is kind of this automated feature that allows you to connect or communicate with your volunteers without you having to do anything except flip a switch, which is awesome. So we're going to talk about each one of these three in order. So let's start with our emailing in Breeze. So I'm in a demo account. This is all demo data, so don't try and email this adams@test.com. But this is our demo account. And all I've done is I've come over to our people tab, and this is where you can see all of your people data. So the easiest way to communicate with somebody is you can click into their profile and then you can just click on their email here and it will allow you to send just a one-time email. So that's if you want to send just a normal email to one person in your community. But what happens when you need to contact the whole church or you've got something like VBS coming up and you want to send out some communications? The best way to do that is to use this checkbox here and you can mass select all of your people. Now that you have everybody selected, you can click email and then you can select basic or design. Now, to drill down even further, because you're saying, hey, Preston, I don't necessarily need to email my entire church every time. You can also do this by filter. So you can come over here and you could actually filter by status. So if they're a member, attender, or visitor. So you might not necessarily need to email everybody everything. So you can select it by different filters here. So if I select that, we'll see that things update on the side. And then I can click this button again, and that's going to allow me to select just this segment of people. So that way you don't have to blast everybody with every communication. So once you've got people selected, you're going to check email, and you have two options here on how you'd like to email your contacts. The first option is a basic email, which I recently have seen a resurgence of people using basic emails, and I'm not mad about it. They're pretty simple, they're pretty easy.
Straight to the point.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect for just quick communication with your church, and especially if you don't want to take the time to design it or you think it's unnecessary to design everything. So once you click basic email, you're going to see everybody who you've selected at the top, and then you can add the subject. So upcoming VBS. And then a basic email means that it's just basic text. And then we also have the opportunity in this email to send attachments or add images or links of that nature. So this could be an email to all of our volunteers, for example, and we could say, hello, VBS is coming up soon. So let's get ready. And then you could also add an attachment here, which would allow you to add a file and like a volunteer's file or something like that. And if you're like me, you need to use spell check, and that's helpful as well. So
Same,
yeah.
same.
So that's how you can send a basic email and you can add an attachment. And what's really cool about this email as well is you can set this up to send later. So if you are in the office for just a couple hours a week, I know a lot of us are volunteers or part-time at church. So what you could do is select send later, and you could actually schedule out multiple emails at a time, which is super helpful. So if you're doing like a VBS campaign or something like that, and you're like, I want to send out 5 emails over the next 5 weeks, you could just sit down for an hour, however long it's going to take you, and schedule all of these out and then not have to worry about it, which is an awesome tool. So that's the basic email. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to show you the designed email as well. So following the same steps of selecting who you want to contact, we'll select email and then design. And then what's really cool about design is it might take a little longer to set up the first time you do it, but once you have a design that you like, you can save it as a template. So I'm going to select a new template down here. We'll select preview and then next. And what I would recommend is taking the time the very first time you set up your email to really go through and customize everything. So you could update the logo here, change wording and images. And then at the very top, once you have this design designed out exactly how you like it, you can select save as template. And then this is going to show up right here in your templates. So that's a super easy way to just ongoing design work. That way you're not starting from scratch every time. Now I'll go ahead and select one of these templates to get started. And what's cool about the design email is it's all just a drag and drop tool. So if I want to move this up to the top, you see that it highlights, and then I just bring it up to the top here, and it's super easy to rearrange. It doesn't require any coding or any crazy design knowledge, which is awesome. You can also, on the right hand side, you can drag in additional items. So if I wanted a new image here, you can see that I can upload it here. What's cool is we also have some AI tools built in. So you can actually generate some images right from here. So if I wanted to generate a VBS specific graphic, I could do that with just by prompting a few things. So you can see some examples here. You got a dog and a cat, you got some funny stuff. But you just type in what you want to see and it will create that image for you. Again, the design email is similar in function where you add a subject line at the top and then down the bottom, you can either send it now or, as we talked about just a few moments ago, you can send it later. So again, you can do a lot of work up front and then just have these going out at a future date, which is extremely helpful for, again, us who are just working a couple hours for the church. Stacy, is there anything that I missed for sending out emails or best practices you've seen?
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect. The only thing I would say for those that are using just that basic editor, keep in mind you can use those mail merge tools. So if you do
Oh,
want
true.
just a little more personal, attention to that design or to that basic email, you can explore some of those mail merge features that will personalize for your users, but also keep it super simple and straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good call out. Yeah, these mail mergers, if you've never used them before, you can see that I've added the first name here, and all it's going to do is pull in the first name of the person that we're sending. So, like, this will send to Tammy, and you can even just add hello, and then it's going to say hello, Tammy or Luther, and it's unique to each person, which is so cool. It's a great way to personalize it. Awesome. Well, let's go on and moving on down the list to texting, the big one that everybody loves. So texting is a really cool feature within Breeze. And something to note is that it is a one-way text feature. It's not two-way. So if people try and text back that number, it's not going to go anywhere. So this is just one way. So this is direct communications to your church or your volunteers or anybody else. So to get started with that, it's the same process as email, in which case you're just going to select who you'd like to text. And so I can select all again here. And then instead of selecting email, I'm going to select text here. Now, what you're going to see here is at the top, you can see all the people that you're about to message. And then you've got your actual text box. Now, within this text box, you have 140 characters to type in here. So that just keeps it into one text. If you were to do more than that, you're going to get red, and it breaks it up too much. So we always suggest doing that 140. And then again, sticking with our VBS theme, we could say, "Hey everyone, VBS is coming up. Register today." And then you could add your URL right there. And so now when this sends, what's going to happen is they're all going to get this text right here, and this link will be active. So they could click that link and then register right from their phone to VBS, which is really cool. Now, a couple of things I want to point out as we keep moving down the page is you have the ability to link a photo or file, which again, if you want them to have more information about an event like VBS, or if you just want to add a photo, you can add that as well. This is just a link. So when they get the text, they're going to click that link and it's going to open up in their browser. It's not necessarily going to show up in their actual text thread, depending on the type of phone they have. So if they have an iPhone or a new Android phone, it's possible that those preview, like website previews, pops up in their messaging feed, which is really cool. But if they have an older phone or if they have some features turned off on their phone, they'll just click that link and it's going to open up in a browser. So just something to keep in mind there. The other cool thing that we have here is let's say you put in a URL for somebody to register for an event, but it's really long. So, and that's typically the case. You typically have like your church name.com/event/register/ a whole bunch of numbers and stuff. And so that can take up your character count really fast. What you can do there is you can highlight or copy that registration link or whatever link you want to add, and then select this tool right here that says shorten a URL. When you click shorten URL, you're going to paste in the registration link or whatever link you're using, and then select insert. Now, what you can see is this new URL, which is super small. So that's incredibly helpful for keeping your character count down when you're trying to add a long URL. So I highly recommend using that. You can use this link anywhere actually. So if you wanted to repurpose it, that you can just copy this and use it elsewhere as well. Now, the last thing I'll say here is please, please, please make sure that you either have written or verbal consent to text your congregation or the people that you're texting. This is a requirement by the industry. And if you don't have it, then people can mark you as spam, and that is not good for receiving future texts. So people are able to opt out at any time from your text by just sending the word stop, and they can also opt back in by selecting start. So that's just something to note there. So when you select this box, by selecting this checkbox, I'm confirming I have the necessary consent. If you've never texted somebody before from your Breeze platform, they're actually going to get a one-time text that asks them if they want to keep receiving texts from your church. This is an industry standard thing. It only happens one time, and then once they click yes, then there's nothing else they have to do. So like for instance, if I'm sending this text to Stacy, but I've never texted Stacy before, she's gonna get a text that says, "Hey, would you like to continue getting texts from Preston?" It'll be the church name, but for this example, I'll just say Preston. And then they have the opportunity to either opt in or opt out, as well as they're gonna get the text that I'm actually sending here. So she'll get two texts overall. So that's just something to note, just to let your people know if you're rolling this out that they are going to get that opt-in opportunity. The last thing I'll say about texting is also have the ability to either send now, send on a custom date and time, send tomorrow. And so you can also schedule out your text as well. Again, this is such a time saver. If you just want to plan out text for the next couple of weeks, you could get a whole series made and then schedule these out. Stacy, is there any questions or anything you want to add here for best practices?
Yeah, so I received a good question I just wanted to bring out in this area. Because it is one-way communication, one of our members asked if a user tries to text back, will they get some kind of notification that it's one way?
Mm,
And I think the answer, I don't believe they do. And so really it is on you as a church to communicate to them. Please remember this is one-way communication.
mhm.
So I would maybe put that in a public place. It is a short code, so they'll see that it's not a phone number, but they
Right.
won't necessarily get that notification that a response has not been received by you. So that's a great question. You may want to just reiterate that with your members.
Yeah, that's a great call out. You can even add that too. If it's a short text like this, you could add like, I don't know, heads up, this is a one-way text or something like that. Or you could add a follow-up contact information, like have questions, email us at your church name at Gmail, or whatever your church's email is there. So if you want to provide a way for people to follow up, or if you are asking for a response, you can add some sort of information like that. The one thing to note about texting as well is you get 250 texts a month. And so what that means is for in this case, I would be sending out to 48 people right now. So what that would mean is out of my 250 texts remaining for this month, after I send this text, I'll have 202 messages left to send. So the text message doesn't isn't just one blast. So when I send now, that doesn't count as one. That counts as how many individuals I'm actually texting. And then, of course, because this isn't two-way, there's no worries about people texting back and that using credits. It's only the text messages that you write out and send. If you're interested in changing this, I recommend selecting change here, and it's going to open up your settings panel. And there's this tool right here that says enable unlimited text. And what this does is this allows you to text uninterrupted, especially if you take advantage of scheduling out your text messages. So how this works is you get 250 text messages a month, and this re-ups on your subscription cycle. So whenever your payment date is, that's when it renews. And if you would like to send more than 250 texts a month, then any text above 250 is just going to be 1.9 cents a text. So it's a pretty nominal amount and allows you to stay in connection with your church. And this is really important if you set up auto notifications, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So I recommend having this on and then just monitoring how much usage you have of your text messages. Obviously, you don't want to be going too crazy, but this is really helpful for if you're just sending a couple over and you don't want uninterrupted services. So you can do that again just by selecting change down here and then enable this and click save changes. Awesome. So that covers that part of text messaging. Now let's talk about those auto texts for your volunteers in Breeze. Now this is an awesome feature. I think it's super helpful as a volunteer to get text messages and email messages. Probably text messages more than email because everybody's got their phone. Everybody's going to see it much faster than they will their email. And so to set this up, if you've never done it before, is we're going to select events. And then I'm going to go ahead and select into a future event. So let's go Sunday school. And I'm going to select volunteers. From here, I'm going to click on this bell icon. So this says volunteers will receive one reminder. So I'm going to click into this, and this is where I can see all the reminders that are getting sent out to my volunteers. So you got a teacher reminder here, and currently they're just getting one reminder, and this reminder sends 3 days before the event. If I want to toggle on additional reminders, we can toggle up to three of them. So I could do the 6 days and then the 12 days before as well. Now to further customize this to make sure it's not just email, it's also text, I'm going to click customize. And this is the default reminder. You can see we have the mail merge tags that are already created for us. So this is what the email looks like. And you'll see right here, if we come down, we have this checkbox that says also send this reminder as a text message. So by clicking this, that means they're going to get that email and they're going to get a text message that just reminds them that they're volunteering and it's going to be on the same schedule. So this one will be 3 days before, but let's say I want to update it to 7 days. I want them to have a little bit more lead time, or I want it just one day before, just as a quick reminder. You can do that and select done. And then here you can see that I can save this for a one-time event, or I could save it for the series or multiple roles as well. So this is really helpful if you have a really big event and you just want them to have multiple reminders for something like VBS or like an Easter Sunday where you really want to make sure the volunteers are there. You could save these multiple reminders for just that event, or you could save it so it's by default sending these 3 reminders or however many for every event. So that's an awesome way to just, yeah, keep in touch with your volunteers, make sure that they're aware of what's going on. And then again, just make sure that you've got that toggled feature for your text messages if you are using this a lot. Stacy, is there any other kind of tricks or tools about this auto text messaging?
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the head. And I would just, and I know I think you've shared this before too, just keep in mind that those texts do count towards your 250 limit. So just
Mhm.
be cognizant of that, that these reminder texts. So you may not want to send 3 reminder texts. Maybe you want to just send one of those as a text that,
Mhm.
just to be cognizant of that. Um, not only that limit, but also just not, spamming your volunteers with texts. You
Yeah.
wanna be mindful of that. So, yeah, but no,
Mhm.
I think you definitely hit it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's such a good call out. It's such a privilege to be able to communicate with our congregation and members with their phone. And with text messaging marketing becoming more prevalent, we need to be really careful with how much we blast everybody. So I typically recommend sending texts maybe once a week, but maybe twice, once every 2 weeks is a good cadence. That way you're not in their business too much. I think the volunteer reminders you can have more often just because people expect like they know that they're getting volunteering, but those
Mhm,
communication ones you can do a little bit um, more spaced out. So great call out
mhm,
there. Awesome. The last area I want to talk about, we touched on this briefly, but I think this is a cool feature to understand, especially with communication, which is segmenting your groups using tags. So, what I did earlier in terms of filtering is I selected based off some demographic data or like their member status. But if we came all the way down the bottom, in additional filters, you can actually select the different tags that a member has. And I find this really helpful, and maybe you will as well. But you can see that in our demo account, we've set up multiple different tags, like the type of ministry they're in. So small groups is a really helpful one. So if you wanted to reach out to, let's say, Kevin's small group, because one of the members of the small group maybe just had a baby or something. And so you're like, hey, we've got a meal train going on. What you would do is you would just select Kevin's group, and then you can see that there's 5 people here. I could select all 5 people and then text them, and then just contact that group. This is really helpful just for, again, reaching the right people for your type of communication. And as we just talked about, instead of sending a mass text to everybody that it might not be relevant to everybody, you can really narrow down to the people you want to contact. To create a tag or manage your tags, you'll select tags and then you can add a new tag up here by selecting add tag and then just add a name for it. You can also add them to folders. So if I click this drop down, you can see that I can add a folder. And then that's kind of how you can organize or nest your tags. So on the left-hand side, you can see the multiple folders I have, like ministries and then small groups. And this is what we were just using. So Kevin's group. So I could add a new group. So we'll add Stacy's group here. And now you can see that that's tags there, and we can start filtering as well. So that's kind of the basics of tags. You can learn a lot more about them. You can see that when you click into a tag, you can also text the group right from that. So again, if you missed what I just did, I'll go back to tags, small groups, and then I clicked into the actual tag. And this is where you could email just this group or text message, and then of course add people as well. So this is another way to do it if you don't want to go through people and filter. So I just like to call that out. I think it's a super helpful tool for kind of organizing your people, but as well as communicating your people. That last bit, just to emphasize again on enrolling users, your users will be auto-enrolled into text messaging when you send that first text. However, if you have the ability, you can jump into their actual account and then select enroll to receive text messaging. So once you click this, you can see that it says enroll to receive text messaging. Please only use this tool if you have that written or verbal consent to actually enroll them in text messaging. So if this isn't marked already, that's when they're going to receive that opt-in message. If they have this enrollment already checked, then they won't receive that opt-in message. So that's just one thing to note there. Awesome. I think that covers everything we have. Stacy, is there any other best practices or leftover questions that we should answer together?
Yeah, I just two just popped in. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna just we'll answer this live from Kim. Whether I text 5 or 500, it counts as one message per the 250 month allowance, correct? So Kim, if you are texting one text message, attention VBS this Sunday to 500 of your contacts, that is going to be 500 texts, just so
Mhm.
that is clear. Again, you have those 250 free and it's 1.9 cents per each that you go over.
Right.
And then, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Preston.
Oh no, I was just gonna for visual learners here. I was just gonna show if you were to
Okay.
select just Tammy here and then text her, that counts as one. But if I select Tammy, Luther, and then Neo and still go through that single text message, but it's sending to three separate people, so that's gonna count as three. So just to further explain that, it's based on contacts, not just the text that you're typing out.
Awesome. I do have another question here from Jerry. Is there a feature for a guest to text a keyword and get a bounce back message from the church? So with Breeze texting, that is a great question, but with Breeze texting, it is that one way. And so they are unable to text back. It's really more just for you responding to those congregants.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Also, oh, and I see one more question from Robert. Did you say 250 per month? That is correct. So
Yep.
200 that starts fresh each month. It actually is the calendar month. So
Oh.
it's not on the billing. It will be for the calendar month. And what again, if you keep that unchecked, it will keep you within that 250 you're allotted. If you
Mhm.
check that 250, if you go over, it's just 1.9 cents per text, and then that will start fresh the next calendar month. Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. I think I see one in the chat from Brad. Is email one way or does it come back to the email on file? That's a great question. So I'll go back to our email here. And this one is different to text, where you can see that down here, the sending from email. So you can change this to be whatever email makes sense. So info@breeze.com. And then the recipients of this email will actually see this email address so they can respond back and email back. So that's a great call out, Brad, is emails are that kind of two-way communication, whereas the text messages is a one-way communication.
Good. So I asked earlier in the chat how many of us are actively using it, and it doesn't seem like too many. And so I hope you all feel empowered today
Yeah.
to give it a try. With VBS coming up, you
Hmm.
may want to create a tag for your VBS volunteers and maybe just shoot
Yeah.
them a little text of encouragement. We're praying for you all. Thank you. Be
Hmm.
creative, think outside the box to how you can utilize that text for just small segments of your church, but also to like help you to become comfortable in using those features.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a ton of like best practices or use cases I've seen. Some of my favorite ones is for the small groups or like if your church is going through a series or Bible study. So our church was doing the Bible in a year. And so sending out like the PDF in a text messages that's like, hey, here's the schedule for it is a really cool way to engage your church throughout the week based on whatever was preached on Sunday or whatever series you're going on. So I like to think of it more than, yeah, just those quick communications or like volunteer, but actually as a ministry tool to keep people engaged throughout the week on what your church is up to.
Love it.
Cool. Is there a way to text only people? It looks like you were answering that one, Stacy.
Yeah, gotcha.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we'll give it one more second. Increase the number of characters per message. I don't think so at this point, and that's actually more of a limitation in our in the industry to send text messages. That's not necessarily a Breeze specific limitation.
Yeah.
So, like I was saying, anything over that limit is actually going to break up into multiple texts. So it's not very user friendly for the end user, is why we do that 140. Now, if you need to send something a bit bigger than that, an email is great, or you could schedule out multiple texts if you wanted to. But again, just kind of respecting people's phones from buzzing too much. That's why we keep it down to that 140.
Love it. And you can feel free to direct users to a different place, right? You can
Mhm.
utilize that text feature, more information on our website, head over to our Facebook for that
Yeah.
interaction. So you can keep those character limit, keep within the character limit and just direct them to that next place that has the full information.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Text doesn't necessarily have to have all the info. It's just kind of a reminder. So putting
Yeah.
a link, that's such a good call out there.
Cool.
Perfect. Well, if you would like to re-watch this webinar or learn more about our other products, you can head over to tithelyuniversity.com. This webinar will be published either later today or tomorrow, both on YouTube and on the tithelyuniversity.com. And so you can re-watch this or check out other webinars. We have a ton of great information there. So if you just like having something in the background and learning, this is a great resource. And then you can also join our Facebook group. The Facebook group is really cool for talking with other church leaders about their best practices. So if you wanted to get on there today, you could join and you could say, hey, what's some cool ways that you're using Breeze texting? And then they could give you some ideas that we might not have covered today. So our Facebook group is a great place for that. We also will periodically send some product updates. So if you want to be in the know of what's going on with Breeze and Tithely, that's a great place as well. So just search for us on the Facebook, and then you can request to join, and one of our admins will let you in there. Again, we are CX. We are by your side and for your growth. We're so happy that you got to join us today. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out to our support team in that chatbot or support@tithe.ly, and we'll tune in with you next time. Thanks, y'all.
Love it. Bye, guys.